Some might call Boba Fett the most overrated character in Star Wars. Just a guy with armor on in the original trilogy, and now he gets his own show before Obi-Wan Kenobi. Well, I disagree with that. If The Mandalorian has taught us anything, it's that with the right story structure and characters, you can make any character interesting to watch, regardless of their backstory or lack thereof. And that brings us to the bounty hunter, who elongates the end of his sentences. See, Boba Fett was nearly killed by the Sarlacc, and not only did he escape, but he also wrote a book about it. And the best part is that he didn't even expect it to be turned into a TV show. Now, let's get down to business. Hit the like button and subscribe if you want more weekly reviews. Now, my review is this. Boba Fett is the winner of the worst hangover of all time. He was robbed by Jawas and couldn't barely beat up a skanky dog, and then proceeded to be led back and forth through the desert by a child. That's the end of the video. Thanks for watching. No, listen. The desert scenes with Boba in his pajamas reminded me of the Penguin in his onesie in Batman Returns. Okay, joking aside, this episode wasn't terrible. Matter of fact, it was above average for me. You had a woman offer to clean Boba Fett's helmet, which in London, where I'm from, means something completely different to what it does in Star Wars. It means getting your knob cleaned off, if you catch my drift. See, I wasn't expecting such a crude joke, regardless if it was intentional or not. It made me laugh out loud. The idea that Boba Fett would walk into a restaurant or bar and the maitre d' of the place would offer up an enticing offer like that makes me want to horse laugh. But anyway, this episode might fail to capture people who aren't already invested in the characters. If you don't know who Boba Fett is, or you just don't care in general, then I'm afraid to say this didn't quite hit the mark. You can make the argument that Boba Fett's legacy in the movies was wasted and he went out like a buffoon. And in that respect, anything after the fact is an improvement. I think that The Mandalorian did a lot to redeem Boba Fett. The angle being he's back and he's pissed off mad as ever. But so far in the Book of Boba Fett is not a ruthless bounty hunter. He's more political than anything, and trust me, I understand, I get it, it's one episode. I have to say that because I know some Star Wars fans will be like, but he's ruling with respect, Ree. Who cares what you think, bitch? What I think is that he should be clawing back his reputation after Return of the Jedi. Shadows of the Empire was my favorite Star Wars book, so the potential of a Boba Fett versus Bosk moment is what really gets me excited for the show. However, I doubt that they will follow the Bounty Hunter book trilogy, but bringing in Bosk as a villain is something I can see happening, and I'll be all for it. Now, the title of this episode is Stranger in a Strange Land, and that's also a title of an Iron Maiden song from the 1986 album Somewhere in Time. I could easily guess that it's either a direct nod or a reference to that. Who knows? Anyway, what the episode should have been called is the flashback to Tank, because it was the best part of the episode. Now, overall, I thought that this was a great opener. Boba Fett escaping the Sarlacc pit. If you look closely around the 7-second mark, you can see a Sarlacc tentacle, and it is the same Sarlacc tentacle that Han Solo shot in Return of the Jedi when the Sarlacc tried to eat Lando. And when Boba Fett gets out of the Sarlacc pit, you can see that he still has that gash in his jetpack from the deleted Return of the Jedi scene where Luke sliced his jetpack before Han Solo bumped into it. See, it's that attention to detail that I do find admirable, but at the same time confusing, because there are some sloppy editing moments in this episode. They made it seem like anyone could escape the Sarlacc pit and not an actual accomplishment like in Legends. It just looked like he slushed through some slime. They could have made it way more graphic, along with a darker tone with other decaying bodies in that stomach. Or how about Boba Fett sacrifices innocent people just so he can make his escape? See, that's the darker tone I was talking about. Maybe have him fighting off tentacles and acid-spitting parasites, culminating with him flying out of the pit while blasting that creature with with some missiles. And by the way, how on earth did a stormtrooper get in there? If I remember correctly, they weren't present at the Battle of the Pit. From Return of the Jedi, that makes no sense whatsoever. The bottom line is that he got out of the Sarlacc way too quickly. And I was massively disappointed by that. The way they made that look made it seem that even a Padawan would be able to escape it. But Mannix, it's only the first episode, so yeah, maybe the Sarlacc pit is going to be like the Mandalorian, where we get to see glimpses of how he gets out. Much like the Mando's backstory with the Death Watch saving him, who knows, but they cut away way too quickly. We need more Sarlacc goodness. Now let's get to the flashback and the Tusken Raider predicament. This is easily the best part of the show. This is where Lawrence of Arabia meets the Godfather Part 2. Having emerged from the belly of the beast, Boba Fett is a changed man, ladies and gentlemen. I personally found his recovery process and interaction with the Tusken Raider very interesting as the show went on. I think that is a good direction. However, they run the risk of painting Boba Fett as a naive moron. I wonder how he could have survived in such a criminal world and get that high position within the hierarchy of bounty hunters with such poor skills and naive worldviews. But anyway, I do think that the Tusken Raider flashbacks needed some tighter editing. To me, even though it was the best part of the show, it kinda limply meandered along. The Sand People story being drawn out kinda makes sense though. It will explain how he ended up with that stick when we see him in The Mandalorian. He had some serious skills with that Tusken staff weapon, which he does not have. So far in the show, I think we will see how he gets training and the ability to use that staff in future flashbacks. Okay, let's move on to the current timeline, which is without a doubt the worst part of the show. Let's start with that terrible fight action scene in the public square, which was over choreographed to the point of it being like a bunch of white belts doing their little routine to get their yellow belt. I mean, it was so bad. Whether it's Tamora Morrison or the stunt double, they need to be way more fluid. There were many times in that fight where you could see that Boba Fett wasn't actually Tamora Morrison. Look, I know you can't expect a 50-year-old man to move like that, but at least tighten up the editing so it doesn't look so obvious, damn it. And it doesn't make sense because Boba Fett is supposed to be this killer in The Mandalorian, but he's being brought down by common street thugs. I mean, that doesn't feel right. And also, letting the tribute people disrespect him too seemed off to me. And oh god, those exaggerated cool ninja stunt guy fights were stupid as fuck. Having said all of that, oh, and by the way, Boba Fett could have totally used his jetpack when they were being ambushed to fly over the laser shields instead of getting cornered like he did. That is what I mean by being confused. At the start of the episode, there was this specific attention to detail, but later on in the episode, it's this la-di-da attitude that nobody knows what they're doing. That drives me nuts. Anyway, I'm giving the episode a solid 6.5 out of 10. It's above average. It's not great and it's not terrible. It gave a lot of necessary backstory for a character that hasn't really been seen in live action for like 40 years outside of Kid Boba. I don't judge an entire series based on one episode, so I expect it to start to pick up from here. This is also another step in the right direction for Star Wars. Even though I gave it a 6.5, that's 6.5 times better than anything the sequel trilogy could even dream of putting out. This one episode, these 40 minutes, is better than the 6+ hours of the sequel trilogy. Look, the credits of the Book of Boba Fett is better than the sequel trilogy. That's how bad it is. Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni should have done the new trilogy. J.J. Abrams is a moron. And on that bombshell, I'm holding back expectations for the next few episodes of the Book of Boba Fett as to not put the cart before the horse. Mannix out.